with Innocent Okugu for this session. Session 6, Domestication and Status of Implementation of the African Fertilizer and Soil Health Action Plan. And I will not waste time to set the scene and give us the beautiful story of what has happened. Is going to be Prof. Wole Fatunbi. He is from FARA, Director Research. But before he comes, I just want to say I am happy to associate with this session. Fertilizer and soil health is something that was born out of Nairobi in March, 18 months ago. I have lived long enough, not very long, and have seen other things being born at the African Union level. But I didn't see any get up, crawl, walk, and run as fast as this one has done. So I am so happy to facilitate part of this session, and in calling Prof. Wole, also congratulate him for having led this motion, this speed at which we have moved. Prof. Wole, the stage is yours. If you can set the scene for us. Thank you.
Do I use this? I think I like this. Yeah. Yeah, thank you very much, Mr. Facilitator. Good afternoon, partners, friends, colleagues, seniors, and ladies and gentlemen. I'll be glad. Okay, now I have it. So thank you very much for coming for this session and for preparing to interrogate the subject matter of soil. I choose this title, not necessarily what Anthony asked me to, the title he gave me, the Soil Initiative for Africa and the Africa Fertilizer and Soil Health Action Plan, status of implementation. I prefer to use picture to illustrate the context that led to this. And as agricultural expert, you would have seen many of what we are trying to depict with all these pictures. These are African pictures. Some of them are popular. Some of them, they are directly our home picture. The statistics around soils in Africa is so frightening. And these statistics emerged not too long ago why we give attention to why we are where we are. The spate of land degradation is terrible. 65% of the arable land we're using now are at different stages of degradation. What degradation suggests is that the soil cannot produce at optimal level. Then nutrient depletion is the order of the day because of our farming system style and the way we use the soil. In fact, recent study showed that the nutrient balance in Africa as it relates to N, P, and K is -40, suggesting that we have mined the nutrient up to negative of 40%. So what is just there is just to keep the soil as a living ecosystem. You are aware of the issues of soil water. In some area, it is absolute flood. Once it is flood, crop cannot perform optimally. And in many parts, it is insufficient. Rainfall pattern is also changing because of climate change. You know, crusting and sealing of the soil is the order of the day. Then you begin to see huge loss of biological functions across ecosystem in Africa. Time will fail me to talk about the interaction between soil status and climate change. In fact, if you look at it carefully, if you address the soil to a large extent, more than 60%, you will be able to contain the effect of climate change. The bottom line around all this is that agrarian livelihood is threatened. I like to use an adage in my culture. That adage said that if a big affliction knocks you down, every small affliction climbs over you in such a way that insults your existence. And that described the state of Africa agriculture. I want to say that the fundamental problem we have is the problem of our production asset, the biggest one. And I tell you, the soil. the soil is in a difficult situation to sustain us. You know, you will agree with me that we have given attention to too many things: do extension, do advisory services, invest into plant breeding, generate seeds, use biotechnology and all those things. But we discovered that in the last 3 decades, all of this effort did not reduce the yield gap significantly. So productivity is still very low. So in the last 6-7 years, I mean, experts sat together to say, where is the real problem? Where is the lever? And that's when we began to look at soil as our production asset. And we discover that African soil is truly fragile. We look at baseline studies all over. We discover that African soil is truly the oldest soil in the world. In fact, the formation factor makes it such that even the mineral constituent from the molten magma, they are the weak one. And the soil scientists around will bear witness that kaolinite, smectite, montmorillonite, they are just low activity clay mineral that form our soil. And the soil has been there for millions of years. And so our soil is inherently low in fertility. It is an asset indeed, but it must be managed carefully if it's going to be producing for us and sustaining life and livelihood on the continent. And this is the big issue that knocks Africa agricultural productivity down, that makes us to begin to look at several other small issues. We are of the opinion that if we can arrest this issue of soil, then many other issues will be very, very easy to contain. I like this green illustration I put here. It only shows some of the things I showed in the picture: soil fertility crisis, acute land degradation, and the cost and effect. But you will know that when we set the Agenda 2063 a couple of years ago, we were saying that we need to double agricultural productivity. We are talking of total factor productivity, okay? And we should bring at least 30% of the agricultural land under sustainable land management practices. That shows that at the continental level, looking at the entire growth of the continent, this is there. Now, I want to say that we've started this journey for a while, and I'm very happy that some of the great fellows that started this journey with us are here. David Nelson is here, and I saw Dr. Baigwa is not in the hall at the moment. He's here cooking this at the African Union level. The discussion about African soil gained global attention, and several meetings, several documents. Anthony, you begin to see some of those studies ANAPRI conducted, the ones IFDC conducted, the ones FARA conducted. All of these things were able to put together the concrete information around soil. And we package all these things into what we call the white paper on African soil. Now, this white paper and the rigorous information from it help us to put together the soil initiative for Africa. Now, this soil initiative for Africa is a 40 years framework to manage African soil. And the vision around the soil initiative for Africa is to have an healthy and resilient soil, you know, that is managed by African-led soil management system. We also want to empower the users of the soil to use the soil in a very sustainable way. We observe also that because of the degradation, we need to restore and sustain soil health on the continent. And finally, we want to ensure that the countries, they buy into it. Knowing fully that it takes a very short time to degrade a piece of soil, but it takes forever to restore it. We set this agenda for 40 years. And I want to say that the Soil Initiative for Africa is led and driven by African Union Commission. A number of partners contributed to it, and FARA was given some responsibility at that time to pull all this partnership together. There are certain changes we really seek to find in the Soil Initiative for Africa. We're looking at having to reverse the current scenario of soil degradation, through better coordination, cooperation, and leadership of actions. Then we want to seek global solidarity for soil health management system in Africa. I think you get that. We're looking at a situation where we will coordinate the effort in a coherent manner that will help us deliver. Then we're looking at soil-based soil health practices, and we want to scale that to million. The issue of setting continental frameworks and policies, programs, and investment to have soil health, to have a healthy soil in Africa also is done, and then we entrench it in the CADEP. Time will fail me to, but I'll speak to it, how the Soil Initiative for Africa speak to the CADEP 3.0, the Kampala Declaration. So we're looking at ways to bring coherent action together, and more importantly, is to get the country buy-in and move forward. So within this Soil Initiative for Africa, the long-term framework for managing African soil, there are just 4 investment areas, but each of the investment area is organic in nature. That is very robust. The number of things are in it. So we want to optimize integrated soil health and water management planning and implementation. The biggest word to me there is implementation. Africa is good in planning. We know what is wrong with us. We know what we need to do to get out from the sick bed. But to implement it, we face fussy-fronted. And so, we want to do implementation. The second pillar is human, institutional, social capital for research, development, education, extension to sustain the soil management. And I like to use one sentence to qualify that. Do you know that we abuse the soil? We damage it to the current level unconsciously. In fact, the human capital component is so important. We need to conscientize the society to understand the nature and properties of African soil. Now, and I'm so sure that larger percentage here still have the impression, our soil is very rich and fertile. In Africa, even when you throw a grain of corn on the road, in 5 days you will see something grow. Is that? Yeah, but that is erroneous. When it grows does not mean it's going to be productive. So we need to change, and that is human capital development on one side. The third is to optimize data and information for effective planning and monitoring, and to ensure enabling element for policy. So what happened? So, we have 40 years framework, but we need to implement. And so African Union insisted that we come up with African Fertilizer and Soil Health Action Plan. The action plan is a 10 years implementation plan of the Soil Initiative for Africa. And we put that together. The vision of the action plan is similar to that of SIA, but because it's a 10 years thing, it's crafted differently, reversing soil degradation. Before you can reverse, you have to halt, okay? And you need to reverse afterward. Then restore soil health, accelerate inclusive agricultural transformation, let's end hunger, malnutrition, and poverty on the continent. So we have a vision of success for the next 10 years. And that is, let's find consensus on the commitment in this action plan and mobilize investment in fertilizer and soil health by member state. There are 55, then we have 8 regional economic community. Then we are thinking of multi-institutional and multi-stakeholder position and narrative on fertilizer and soil health in Africa. Possibly I should help clarify to this audience, okay, that mineral fertilizer is not an enemy and organic fertilizer is not a saint. Both of them will need to be utilized together to ensure soil health on the continent. And so you stay on one side, you'll be skewed to the negative always. And so we need to get that. And that consensus is really very important. And coordinate, we need to coordinate public and private sector and development partner commitment to what we're talking about. So we have this strategy for success, Multi-stakeholder partnership is a do-do. Investment to drive policies and finance is important. The issue of research and development, market and capacity for fertilizer production and use. I don't want to preempt what my brother Innocent will talk about, but he can tell you that fertilizer production is a piece of cake in Africa. Okay? Maybe fertilizer utilization needs a bit of intervention here and there. But why do we have the production capacity and we export? Then we import what we use. And this is where political economy type of thinking comes in. We need also to think about market and capacity for fertilizer production and use and sustainable health management. Let me say that we set some outcome for the action plan, and the action plan should be outcome based to improve policy, improve access and affordability of organic and mineral fertilizer, efficiency and resilience of sustainable use of these tools, and institutional and human capacity development on the continent. I like graphics a lot, so I put these graphics together to cluster those things into another three: technical intervention, capacity development and decision support, and enabling environment and support mechanism. Looking at the graphics, you will see that it speaks to one another, but in the center is soil health and fertilizer intervention. Maybe I should say that when the soil is not healthy, fertilizer becomes unproductive. And the soil cannot be healthy without appropriate nutrient supply from fertilizer. So you can see that the two flow into one another in a seamless fashion. I'm not moving, brother. Okay. Yeah, I've pressed it too much now. Okay, so for the action plan, the African Union Commission have the responsibility and leadership for the action plan. And the Hauda, NEPAD, and AUC will coordinate stakeholders organization within and outside the continent to ensure effective implementation of the action plan. Many organizations will be participating at different levels, and FARA, based on its role as a technical arm of the African Union Commission and Hauda, NEPAD, will be the technical support organization to AUC and Hauda, NEPAD for the implementation and reporting on the action plan. Yeah, you would have heard my brother talked about May 6 to 9, 2024. That's when we had the African Fertilizer and Soil Health Summit. And the theme is listening to the land. And the land has been shouting and crying for decades. We ignore, even our fathers, they use shifting cultivation. They move to another place and they come back later, but that is not possible. So this summit is unprecedented, had participation of more than 40 countries at very high level. I think about 17 presidents were there, a number of vice presidents and ministers were there. 40 countries in Africa participated, and the agreement was unanimous. So from the summit, the presidential summit, there is the endorsement of Fertilizer and Soil Health Action Plan, the endorsement of Soil Initiative for Africa framework. They make specific declaration, and they made a call for action. They also approve the white paper as the baseline information on soil in Africa. So let me move quickly now. Is it still moving? Okay. So now, please, I need your attention on this, because this is the goal that the president sets for all of us to drive in the next 10 years. They want us to triple domestic production and distribution of quality organic and inorganic fertilizer in the next 10 years. 300%. And the fertilizer manufacturer and industry said this is just a piece of cake, that in 2 months they can actually produce more than that. But it is more than just production. It is utilization. It is effective, a commercial, maybe I should say the money part of the deal. Okay, that makes it an action to take. Then they want us to make available in the next 10 years agronomic recommendation for specific crop, soil, and climatic condition to at least 70% of the farmer. Yeah, this extension group, we talk about this. But the one that puzzles me most is to reverse land degradation and restore soil health on at least 30% of the degraded soil by 2034. The first question we ask ourselves is, what is soil health in African context? There are theoretical definitions, but in African context, what does it mean? If we are going to restore, we cannot restore what we did not have a baseline for. And when we restore, how do we know that the soil is at stage 1 cancer, stage 2, stage 3? If it is human being, there are indicators. But for soil, this is yet to be established. We are working on that. Then they want us to fully operationalize the AFFM, African Fertilizer Financing Mechanism, that is anchored by the African Development Bank. They want us to formulate and implement policies and regulation to create conducive environment for fertilizer and soil health. And they want us to develop and promote systemic national capacity building. Yeah. Okay. Yeah, so this 70% of the farmers, then this action plan, they want us to domesticate it. I'll be quick now so that I can give space. There is this specific call to action. So part of this is mobilizing resources to do this. Then getting AUC and HAUDA to develop implementation roadmap, and they gave us 18 months to do that. They want private sector to increase investment in fertilizer industry. And the Continental International Financial Institution, we call them to support, and that is going on. The development partner to support AUCA, AUDA, and member state in the implementation of the action plan. Yeah, this is supposed to be the smallest, but the development partners have said it unequivocally. In fact, the most pleasant of what they said is that for every dollar or cent we invest, you must use it to mobilize African-owned funding. And we've been talking about African-led, is that? African-owned, African-led processes. So they help us to have it and African-funded. Suggesting that it is not what it used to be for Soil Initiative for Africa, we have to find African funders to put resources into it. My brother, it appears that internet devil is affecting this. Okay. So, now you're going to ask me, it is 18 months after May 2024. What is the progress since 18 months? And just like the facilitator said, we've not seen one that moved this fast. In fact, the president indicated that they gave us 18 months to put the planning process together. And we swing into action immediately, working with all partners in Africa. These 3 documents are ready. We have developed companion documents for the African Fertilizer and Soil Health Action Plan. And many of the actors and technical policy organizations participated in the development. The role of the companion document is to help countries and implementers to understand what we are asking for and what the white paper said we need to do. And so that breaks it down into a language that you can understand exactly what we need to do. Then we develop the coordination mechanism. This is really very important because this is not the first time Africa is having action around fertilizer. In 2006, there is the Fertilizer Summit in Abuja, where the president indicated that we should increase fertilizer use on the continent from 6 kilograms per hectare to 50 kilograms per hectare. As at the time we began to think about this, about 16 years after, we are only at around 17-18% on the continent. And so that big conference that brings the whole world together, it falls to the ground. And the issue is implementation problem, coordination. So now we put a coordination mechanism together that is agreed by all partners that this is the way we should go. We feel strongly that if Africa gets this right, we will implement it, and that is going on. Then, at the continental level, it's just talks and streamlining. Real implementation takes place at the country level. Even though the country sign, more effort is needed to get the country to domesticate this and commit to it. And so we also work together to develop the toolkit to support country to domesticate this action. I'll still speak a bit around that. I will show later the framework for implementation. But there are coalitions of actors that are formed and they are already functional to lead technical implementation. When you look at, do I call that my right or left? So I think it's my right. You see for C4Cs, okay, that's Coalition for Strengthening Agricultural Extension and Advisory Services. A coalition of actors, they are organizations, strong organizations that come together to work, that comes together agreed to combine their strength, experience in certain area and help to deliver. So extension and advisory services, AFAS, AGRA, AFAP, Sasakawa Africa Association, Catholic Relief Services, and One Acre Fund, and AFIDA. AFIDA is the African Fertilizer Industry Development Association, to work together to ensure that all the extension and advisory services actions are done. They support the countries, they support at continental level to ensure practical action. And I repeat, practical action. There is the sea fish. The sea fish is, what do I call it now? Yeah, and someone is going to buy a gun and shoot me today. Yes, coalition of implementers for soil health in Africa, fertilizer and soil health in Africa. Please forgive me, I'm a core member of that, and it escaped my mind. So this is made up of 4 organizations: IFDC, IIT, APNI, and FARA. And then, Larry is the executive director coordinating this. What they do, what CFISH do is to look at innovation and research issues, generation of knowledge, technology, and streamlining it until it becomes an action and it yields social and economic benefit around the subject. There is the C4PA, Coalition for Policy and Advocacy. And my brother, the executive director of ANAPRI, is driving that. So it contains of ANAPRI, AGRA, IFPRI, Michigan State University, FANAPAN, and FARA. And they look at policy issues and they advise at the country level, they push to ensure that things are done. There is the C4CISA, Coalition for Soil Information System in Africa. The name, speak it all. It's made up of 4 organizations, also History, CABI, FAO, and FARA. They also agree to work together to strengthen the soil information component as a decision-making tool. Then there is the Coalition for Fertilizer and Business Engagement. There are many organizations, IFDC, Sustain Africa, AFFM, AFIDA, and many more that time did not allow me to fit in their logo. So you see that it is unprecedented. Maputo, Malabo, climate change, declaration and summit, you never see this well organized and interest from different organizations forming coalition to do the implementation. We also established regional hub. The role of the regional hub is to facilitate country engagement at the region. ECOWAS started earlier, then the SADC hosted by CADESA now, also they are in the preparation phase, top preparation phase. IGAD is going to be coordinating East Africa, SADC hosted by CADESA for Southern Africa, and ECOWAS. ECOWAS is active and running, and the ECOWAS hub is hosted by IIT. There are 5 area-based RECs. Others are economic based. They are also RECs. So we have the ECAS for Central Africa and UMA for North Africa. We're still working, struggling to get the hub established in this other two area. Is this truly what I'm? That is, you know, the day this internet devil want to demonstrate itself, he comes. Okay, so the big question is, you set this framework. In 18 months, tell me what you have done. And that's the questions you want to ask me and ask all these great guys. So I realized that because of the interest, several activities are taking place at country level, at regional level, at continental level. I strive as much as possible to collate all these activities together. And till date, we have 157 activities that are implemented by 16 organizations. You know, did they tell you I'm a troublesome person? I want to look for fight, so that those who did not give me their data, they will look for me with their data. And so when you see all those tall graphs, they belong to certain organizations. The organizations that run fastest is IFDC. You see 20 there. Run 20 activities in 18 months around the action plan. Then 19 is FARA. I work for FARA, so I shake my shoulder. We're doing well. Yeah. So you begin to see that World Bank carry out certain activity, OCP. Now look at 19 at the other hand. That is ISTRIC, the Soil Information Institute. AFFM also is the 17 you see there. APNI also struggle with 13. I want to look for ANAPRI so that my brother can even fire me if he did not. ANAPRI, the data he gave me shown that he has done 8 activities in very good activities in 18 months. So every other organizations, they were busy joking. I want them to fight me so that they can give me their data. No problem. So what are the categories of activities? There are these 8 categories. Document preparation, stakeholders convening for regional hub, country engagement and dialogue, stakeholder convening to develop coordination mechanism, joint development of response to calls for proposals, looking for funding, support to country action for soil information system development, then continuation of existing initiative. That is important. Yeah, because some initiatives are there before. Then we had meetings because they are speaking. Then project meeting and implementation of actions. When I look at this in deeper details, these are important and they are contributing to preparation and progress. But I don't like too many meetings. I think I like too many actions. So farmer know your soil. Need to get to the field early next year. So these are the location of the activities. Activities has taken place in 28 countries already on the continent. 28 countries. And these countries, we have categorized them into 2 categories. The countries that are friends of donors. You get it? Then the other countries that are struggling themselves. Then the 3rd categories of country, nobody is looking in their direction. They are also not doing so much about it. I did not mention any country, please. Now, we have this coordination mechanism, and it's taking me to a more interesting segment. You know, we have a steering committee, continental, okay? And the African Union Commission and ANAPRI sit as permanent co-chair of the steering committee. Now, within the steering committee, you have the regional hubs, and you have the regional hubs that carry out their function. Then you have the national level that makes up of member state. Then you have subnational level, suggesting that we are not just going to the ministry, okay, but we want to go down into counties, into states, if we are talking about Nigeria, and find opportunity to do implementation down to the field level. So you see the 5 coalitions on this other side, thematic coalition that I just mentioned. Then you see FARA there will be providing technical support for the overall coordination. Let me say it loud and clear again. AUDA, NEPAD, and African Union are the secretariat. FARA only provide technical support to them. But you know that the messenger is always the one in the trenches. And sometimes messengers are stronger than the executive director. Yeah, so you look at it from this side, Specialized Continental Initiative, AFFM, then the African Fertilizer, AFAP, you know, the African Center for Fertilizer Development, and the African thing. I want you to look at this, steering the entire action. And this is what it looks like. So you will see that every organization, I'm closing now. Yeah, every important organization is there. And look at the right. You see that farmers' organizations are also engaged effectively in this coordination mechanism. Now the last part. I got a big question, and your question is also like that from African Union yesterday. How many countries have domesticated the action plan? That's a big question. And so the first thing to think about is, how do we know that a country has actually domesticated? And so these 4 keys are important. You know, the country must have a national soil health and fertilizer strategy, okay, that explicitly reference African fertilizer and soil health action plan. The second one, a country-level action plan with timelines, M&E, and action plan, continental action plan indicators are there. Then budget allocation, institutional coordination, and all those things important. Then reporting on progress or progress update on relevant soil health. So if you look at that, then I began to put the countries together and what they have done in the last 18 months, building on existing structure. I want to say that very few countries are at the top of it. And so I put it there. So when I use the word advanced stage, that means that country has gone very far. And I put remarks there. So let me just say it clearly so that I don't waste your time. Only 3 countries have domesticated. Others are moving towards domestication. And the 3 countries is Ethiopia, Nigeria, and Kenya. In fact, Kenya is oversubscribed by donor supporting it to domesticate the action. I call Kenya the toast of the donor. I mean, the donors are also going in the direction. So in West Africa, you see Sierra Leone, discussion is going on. Liberia, they are at the inception stage. Mali is at the inception stage. And you begin to see C4 and ACRAF is working in those countries. And the ECOWAS regional hub also are working in all those countries. Ghana is at mid-level, and Benin, that even hosted the ECOWAS summit. Yes, Togo, is it Togo? It's also still struggling to do something. So in East Africa, we have Kenya, Ethiopia, 2 frontline countries. Tanzania is moving, Uganda is moving, Rwanda is moving. In Southern Africa, we have Malawi, we have Zambia, we have Zimbabwe, and Madagascar. So you see that Malawi is at advanced stage, and I think Mwapata, I saw Mwapata boss here, and Professor Kandawiri, from day one, they buried themselves into Malawi action. And Malawi president came for the summit. Yeah, the minister is always with us in most of the early events. So this is done. I want to say that North Africa also, we have 3 countries that are at the inception stage, Tunisia, Egypt, and Morocco. But the core of this is that they have their own way of doing it. So you will not see African Fertilizer and Soil Health Action Plan in their meeting, in their action, but they are also working there. So let me close by saying that the implementation of the action plan is not going to start from zero. it builds on existing structure and program at the country level. So we leverage that to get them in. But there is need to fit coherence into the developed implementation modalities. If we are going to do uniform reporting, that must be done. Then we need to be more practical. We need more practical action alongside our many talks and document development. You know, I said acceleration is the name of the game. I heard someone said it and it resonates. We need to move and move quickly. Thank you.
Thank you, Prof. I will colonize you here. Please take a seat. And you went over the time, but I didn't stop you because you did part of my job. You introduced everyone that I was going to call up. Thank you for doing that. But just to note that it's Africa-led, it's demonstrated, and it's Africa-owned. We may be enjoying not so much of the Africa-funded if the level of domestication is directly related to who is being loved by donors, and you know, it's not it. We need to work on that. But the things that we have had here, they document the journey that has been moved. We now have structures. We have things that are happening. We can draw lines and compare country A to country B until we get to country 55. And that's clear. I think the scene has been set and set very well. I will now call upon the coalitions that have been formed, the coalition of actors. And I would like to call upon first my coalition, the Coalition for Policy and Advocacy. And Anthony, please come. We did 8 very high quality engagements, including the launch of the SADC hub, which I don't think you reported on. Yeah, you did in that? Yeah, the SADC hub has been launched. You did, yeah, okay. So this is the coordinator, the lead for the Coalition for Policy and Advocacy. And then I'd like to call Dr. Larry Umuna. He is coordinating the Seafish, the one that escaped him, and yet he is a member of it. So please, if I can ask the hotel staff to remove the podium, the lectern. Then Dr. Sheila. Sheila is online. Okay, you know? Can we get Sheila to appear on the screen and be with us visually and in spirit? Then Dr. Lillian Liasi, there was a talk about extension. If we do what we are doing with fertilizer and it sits in bags or whatever packaging, but we don't know how to use it, and the farmer on the ground does not know, we need a strong extension to really make that fertilizer meet the user and meet the beneficiary, which is ultimately the soil. Dr. Liasi is here from Agriculture Advisory Services, AFAS, Forum for Agriculture. Yeah. Then, I don't know, Lillian, we have Lillian here. Sheila, welcome, Sheila. Can you hear us?
Thank you.
Wonderful, thank you.
Yes, I can. Can you hear me?
Yes. Yes, we can hear you. Thank you very much.
Lovely.
And, we have a very simple question. We know that the scene has been set, and we know that you have stakeholders within each of you, and there are things that are happening. We saw the chart of activities. Some are very high, others are where they are, but we need the deeper story. What is it that has happened? Where have you made success? Where have you made challenges? What have you done about it? What are you planning to do? What are we going to see if we meet again next year around about this time? What will have changed? What will be something that we see, and when the chart is put up there, everyone in the room will identify with it. The statement was action happens at the country level. What are we going to see? So when you talk to this, I'm going to give everyone 5 minutes. When you talk to this, please touch on the things that put you on the block so you carry your cross. When we meet next year, we are able to point a finger at you and say, but you said this. We are not seeing it now. I'll start with Madam Extension Advisory Services. Please, the floor is yours.
Thank you very much. What have you done? Even for us to be here, it's already an achievement. Because many times you find that extension is forgotten. And that's why you realize, even when my papa, I usually call him my papa, was presenting there of what activities that have been done. So much has been done in extension, but he didn't cover that. So being here is an achievement. Another achievement, another achievement we've done as extension, the Coalition for Extension and Advisory Service is led by the African Forum for Agriculture Advisory Service. And because of the mandate we have under the African Union to convene partners or actors and Extension Advisory Service, it was critical for us to become the conveners. And therefore we were able, immediately, we started in June, end of August, early September last year during the Food System Summit, we convened the actors, the ones you have seen there, just to come and gather and say, this is what we want to deliver on. How do we do it? Noting the finance landscape that was there. And as actors in Extension and Advisory Service, we were able to deliberate, and we realized that we have to leverage on what is ongoing. When we talk about actors in Extension and Advisory Service, we talk about the researchers, we talk about the extensionists, we talk about the private sector, we talk about the farm organizations, because anyone that is connected to delivering to the last mile, we call them the actors in Extension and Advisory Service. And therefore we brought in these partners, including TAT, who are not there under IATA, to see how are we able to deliver. And we are leveraging the programs that are existing at the country level. AFAS, as a secretariat, we implement through country fora. So within the different countries, we have forums who are also conveners, and we call them the country fora. Therefore, we leverage the country fora to deliver to the national level. And working with these partners that we were able to convene at that time, we realized that each of these partners is implementing different projects within their different countries. Think about Sasakawa Africa, who we always say they're the models, they're using different models to deliver to the last mile on the ground. Sasakawa is working within 11 countries in Africa. So based on the models that they have, they're delivering soil health practices to the last mile. AGRA, we all know the power that AGRA has. Besides the policy initiatives, AGRA is also active when we are talking about extension and advisory service. And they're working in different countries in the continent, generally empowering the young entrepreneurs through the village-based models. And through these models, they're empowering the young people to deliver to the last mile. So leveraging on that, we've been able to reach out to the farmers. You are realizing that based on the targets that you were given, we are to ensure that at least 70% of the smallholder farmers are able to access recommended technologies. They're able to access extension and advisory service. Therefore, we have to really strategize. We have organizations like Catholic Relief Service who have been doing a lot on soil and water management, agroforestry. So based on their practices, we are able to deliver. Besides that, we have the private sector within us, the AFAP, building capacity of agro-dealers to deliver to the last mile. And recently also, we've been able to partner with a feeder after its initiative. So though we talk about these targets being ambitious, as extension and advisory service, through the convening and the partnerships that we have, we are focusing on delivering to the last mile. Besides that, we have been able to mobilize some resources through the Nippon Foundation. Key to our challenges, because you talked about the challenges and the gaps, we realized that soil information is something that not every extension advisory service provider has. I always say when we were in class during our years, soil was just one course. And many of us dropped it in first year and continued on to move with other things. So when you talk about the knowledge on extension and advisory service on soil among the extension advisory service providers, it becomes a gap. But we've been able to work together with the universities now. Through the funding that we got in Nippon Foundation, we are now seeing how to embed soil health practices into the curriculum. And as I'm talking now, agreements have already been done, and we are going to have universities incorporate into their curricula and strengthen the capacity of extension and advisory service provision. Besides that, we have formed a coalition where we are talking about no more silos. Each of the extension advisory service providers are doing a lot wherever they are, but we are working in silos. So we are not able to create the impact that the continent desires. So what do? We are come back together to work as a team. And now we are domesticating that. We started at the continental level with no more silos focus. And now we are taking back to the national levels to bring actors together at the national level to realize for us to create impact, to deliver to this 70% or more we are talking about, we have to work as a team. In September, we were able to bring to all actors in Kenya. We were focusing, that is East Africa. We said, oh, everybody wants Kenya. That's where I come from, and I'm proud of that, though working in Uganda. So we started with Kenya, where we brought all actors to talk about what are we doing, and how can we work together to deliver and create the impact that we need in extension service. On 20th of this month, we will be in the south, in Mozambique, working as a coalition, no more silos, to ensure that we are able to bring the change that we desire in the continent. We have a project we are calling the African Union Soil Observatory, where AFAS has been tasked to strengthen the national soil health strategies. That's what we were talking about that. And I want to assure you, 24 months from now, we'll have been able to identify which are those countries that have soil health strategies. If not, how are we going to build or to support these countries to develop their soil health strategies? And you can task us on that. The next meeting we have, 24 months from now, soil health strategies that aligned to soil, that deliver to the last mile. That's where we are going. Thank you very much.
Wow. Thank you. Let's give you a proper round of applause. This is, and I think in saying that, Prof. Ole, you'll have to change the report card. There are a lot of things that are not captured, and the line needs to shoot through. And no, thank you very much. The one thing I can only add is policy aspects that you spoke about will make sure there is continuity. The curriculum, all those, it means the bench strength that comes is developed now with soil health as a focus. And the campaigns that are happening, make them broader. There are more willing hands. Thank you very much. I will give you a rest, Prof, whilst you catch your breath, and jump all the way to Dr. Larry. We can hear from you. Thank you.
Great, thank you so much. Good afternoon, everybody. I think let me start by reminding everybody of the composition of our coalition, the Coalition of Implementers for Fertilizers and Soil Health. It's a coalition that consists of 4 leading organizations, organizations that have tremendous expertise in the field of fertilizers and soil health. It's IITA, the International Institute for Tropical Agriculture. It's IFDC, the International Fertilizer Development Center. It's APNI, the African Plant Nutrition Institute, and FARA, the Forum for Agricultural Research in Africa. And these 4 organizations came together and have committed to supporting the implementation of the Africa Fertilizer and Soil Health Action Plan. Before I talk about what we did or what we have done since May 2024 when we were formally launched, it will be useful to outline some of the priorities that we set for ourselves for 2025. And these were priorities that were approved by the African Union Commission on AUDA-NEPAD in March of this year. Three of those priorities were: one, we committed to helping to resuscitate the Africa Center for Fertilizer Development in Harare. You would recall in Professor Huwale's presentation, one of the call to actions there was the resuscitation of that center. The African heads of states made it mandatory and insisted that we all work together, support the African Union and AUDA-NEPAD to resuscitate that center. And so we saw it as a low-hanging fruit, and that with the expertise that we have within our coalition, especially expertise around research and innovation, that was certainly one exercise that we could embark on. We also committed to supporting domestication activities and implementation, because we just don't want to talk about domestication. We also need to be thinking about implementation in selected countries. Lastly, we said we were going to support the development of regional hubs. And for those hubs that were already existing, and we knew there was just one hub that was already operational, we would do our best to ensure that they continue to grow in their activities. And so what have we done since May 2024 when we were formally launched? Like I stated, we were extremely very active in the process of resuscitating the African Center for Fertilizer Development. Specifically, we played a very front active role in developing the strategic plan for the resuscitation of this center. And that plan was developed in collaboration with the technical committee. There's a technical committee based in Harare. Our coalition worked with our technical committee, got that plan developed. The plan was reviewed and approved by the African Union and AUDA-NEPAD in July of this year. And I'm very delighted to inform you that at the last STC meeting last week in Addis Ababa, that strategic plan, that plan was approved. What that means now is that we can now go on to work with our partners, the various partners, and begin and develop the operational plan. Now, you may wonder, what is this strategic plan all about? It's basically a 3-year framework that we put together, a 3-year framework that would help in operationalizing that center. It's a plan that will help us focus, to help us on some areas. For example, the support of development of local industry and commercialization of locally adapted and novel fertilizer technologies. The plan would also talk about fertilizer technologies, and when we're talking about fertilizer technologies, it's basically inorganic and mineral fertilizers here. So that plan is in place, and we trust that by the time we have that operational plan in place, hopefully, depending on funding opportunities, we might be able to get that center up and running again, hopefully by the second half of next year. We also played an active role in supporting the development of the establishment document for IGAD regional hubs. The IGAD member states got together. We were one of 2 technical partners that supported IGAD to develop that plan. That establishment document, which also contains the implementation plan for the operationalization of that hub, was approved by the IGAD ministers on the 9th of September on the sidelines of the African Climate Summit 2. And so we are proud to say that at least we contributed to including in that document 2 new key focus areas. One was the area of research and innovation, and the second was the issues of market, trade, and supply chain. So we're waiting right now to see what the next plans are. We are on standby to support the IGAD member states. We're also on standby to work with various institutions in that regional economic community and support them in the implementation. Whenever we're talking about the continent Africa, we tend to forget North Africa, and so one of our members, APNI is based in Morocco, in Marrakesh. They have now taken up that responsibility of ensuring that the North African hub would eventually see the light of day. And they are busy mobilizing stakeholders. I was very privileged to attend a side event in Rabat in September, organized by APNI. And at that side event, APNI was able to bring different stakeholders, and we had the opportunity of sharing information on what we are doing in sub-Saharan Africa regarding the implementation of the Africa Fertilizer and Soil Health Action Plan. Again, we are hopeful and optimistic that we might see a North African hub sometime sometime next year. The West African hub is already fully operational. He's been fully staffed, operates from IITA in Ibadan. They have country engagements ongoing, and I'll be very delighted to share some more information about that in the next session. We have 3 of our 4 members actively involved in the operationalization of the West Africa hub. And we've also been doing some high-level advocacy work. Our coalition executives paid a courtesy call to the AU Commissioner for Agriculture sometime in August. He shared his 100-day plan with us, and one of his priorities is the establishment of regional fertilizer blending plants. We have provided him and his group, his team, with some information, technical information, and we are on standby to assist him in achieving his objectives relating to that plan. But for those of you who were at the African Food Systems Forum in Dakar in September, we were very proud to co-host alongside the African Union Commission, AUDA, NEPAD, AGRA. We hosted a very high-level special event where we discussed the implementation of the African Fertilizer and Soil Health Action Plan. All the coalition members also participated at that particular meeting. So we've been quite busy, and we know there's still a lot of work ahead of us. But let me stop here. Our programs are also running. We also have soil values being implemented with many coalition members being implemented in West Africa. Transform Ethiopia, which is also one of our programs, is already been implemented. I'll stop here.
Thank you, Larry. Thank you very much. A round of applause, a proper one. For today, this session here is the main item on the agenda. So I know you have had lunch. Please, let's have the energy for it. Thank you very much. The distribution of work across all the regions, Southern Africa, North Africa, and for highlighting that we forget it's part of the continent, and you are doing work to hopefully integrate, and the solution for Africa cannot then leave out that part of the world. Thank you very much. I will go to online. Sheila, I must state that in all the work that we do, any non-state actor will confirm that we want private sector to be part of what we do, but it's one of the most difficult to bring. And in this particular instance, it's one of the ones that are in the front running and participating. And it's good to always know that you don't cry about, we are doing our thing, the private sector is not here. So please, Sheila, the floor is yours. You can share. Thank you.
Good afternoon, everybody. Let me apologize to Anthony for not being there. I can see everyone from the coalitions is there. But we are with you in spirit. We are with you together. And the reason I'm not there is because we are busy in the field. I had Wallace saying the, workshops and then, the workshops and action. I'm not there because I'm right in the middle of action in terms of supporting some of the countries in this work. So allow me to also introduce myself and then also give clarification of members of our coalition. So our coalition is the private sector, and I don't think private sector is very difficult to bring on board when they see the business opportunity and they do this. Some of us eat, live, and sleep private sector within the development world. So we understand the way private sector works, hence the reason it is easy for us to be able to engage them. So our coalition, which was launched in Kampala, on the sidelines of the CADEP Kampala forum earlier this year. It was the presidential forum that was in Kampala, and we launched the coalition of private sector and business there. And this coalition secretariat is led by Sustain Africa, under my leadership as the executive director of Sustain Africa. And in there we have IFDC as a coalition member. We have AFAP in there, so we have the international fertilizer and we have the African fertilizer. That is great complementary. We have AFFM that sits under the Africa Development Bank, and that is the Africa fertilizer financing mechanism, which is one of the institutions that had clearly written within the declaration on the full operationalization of that work. They fall under our coalition of private sector development. We also very importantly have Trademark Africa, who are working with us on leveraging the AFCFTA, another entity that has been clearly written into the 10-year roadmap under the Nairobi Declaration. So that is Trademark's role, bringing in, leveraging the AFCFTA in terms of trade. Then very, very, very importantly, we have AFIDA, and it's good we have AFIDA represented. We have Innocent there in the room, who I'm certain has spoken about AFIDA. So we have the continental private sector, because this work, the heart of it is private sector. So we have AFIDA as part of the coalition. And last but not least, we have the global fertilizer players, also through Africa IFA, which is the International Fertilizer Association. So when you look at it, we have continental bodies and we have global bodies. So we have the whole globe from a private sector perspective within the coalition. And when you look at the work of our coalition, it is three things. It is about tripling production of fertilizer, organics, inorganics, soil health technologies on the continent. That is a very challenging tall order, but here we are. You're hearing private sector expanding in other regions, so that is the work we're supporting on, working with the private sector to see what support they need. And then with that tripling, we've been asked to double distribution on the continent. So the heads of state did not say we cannot look at external markets, but they want to see more trade within the continent, and then, some trade also going externally. Our other mandate is finance, innovative financing. How do we get better financing products that are, gender-friendly, youth-friendly, and can be tailored to really meet the needs of the private sector? So hence the operationalization or the full operationalization of the AFFM, and also working with other financial institutions on how we can ensure that all levels and all cadres of those in the sector get served. So that is another mandate we have. And then I spoke about trade with leveraging the AFCFTA. We know trade barriers exist. So how do we ensure that we're able to get the products, all these products moving across different countries, moving across the different corridors, and being able to do this so that private sector is able to move smoothly and not get hindered by, different barriers at different points or border points. So that is the work we are doing. What have we done thus far? Since we launched in January, we've been able to do that convening. We've been able to bring all these parties together. Our feeder has been able to launch. Being able to launch the body continentally is a great milestone. Being able to bring all that part, because without an organized private sector, then it is difficult to be able to support. So that launch, which happened at AFS, is a great milestone. Then, as I said, the reason I'm also not there is that with thanks to FCDO, we got catalytic funding to support 3 countries to be able to initiate their, or move forward their domestication efforts. So we have work in Senegal, we have work in Mozambique, we have work in Malawi. Last week we came from supporting Senegal, come together to put together its 10-year roadmap, because we are unable to move all this work that we are doing and what all the other coalitions are doing without a country roadmap. You had Wole there say only 3 countries are moving ahead with their domestication. So with the support we've been able to give Senegal, all the coalitions here are able now to tap into Senegal and see, as they draw their 10-year roadmap, how do they now fit in and be able to do that, because the private sector coalition got catalytic funding in partnership with AGRA to work with the different bodies that have been selected in the respective countries. So in the case of Senegal, that is through IFDC and the Ministry of Agriculture and other entities. We are moving next to Malawi. We'll be in Malawi in another week to do this work. And through there, we have Mwapata as the body that was selected by government. So Mwapata in the lead with the ministry and bringing together all the stakeholders. From there, we move to Mozambique, where the work is led by AFAP, and in there, working with the ministry and bringing together all the bodies. So as you can see, within a year, we already have all these milestones, setting up on a high and, launching in Kampala and being able to access funding from a donor to already move the countries to come together, put together their roadmap so that all of us as coalitions are able to feed in and support the countries. So in those different 3 country structures, those elements of production, the elements of finance, the elements of trade, the elements of soil, extension, and all the work all of us are doing is in there. So we keep moving. Action, action, action. Private sector is about action. No action, private sector is not at the table. Private sector don't want too many forums, as Wole has said. Once you understand the private sector is about moving, it's about profits, it's about business. If they see an opportunity, the private sector will be there. What are we also doing? Later this month, we are in Marrakesh at the African Conference, and the private sector coalition led by Sustain Africa has now signed a deal with Africom, where at every forum we will bring a government to pitch that open for business. They would want to be pitching to private sector to be able to come. The forum in Marrakesh at the end of this month in Morocco, where we are going to, is all about the private sector. It's about private sector business. So the first government we are taking there is the government of Somalia, who now have all those bans lifted, and they are already wanting private sector to engage. So we are taking the government of Somalia there. They are working with the World Bank from Somalia, and they are going to tell the private sector, we are open for business, come and invest. So I'm also pitching on behalf of the government of Somalia to you. If you know those who are ready to invest in Somalia, please welcome them to Somalia. We will be there with the Somali government. And in the next forum in February, we will take another government, and so on and so forth. So our work is moving. And thank you to FARA for all the support. Thank you to the AU, and thank you to all coalition members. Thank you to ANAPRI for inviting us here today to be able to speak of, the milestones and how we work together. In our work, I always say the policy coalition is our closest because a lot of the private sector issues are policy related. So we work together. I'm with you there. Our coalition is with you there. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Yes, I'm sure you can hear that round of applause. We do appreciate.
Yes.
And
Thank
yeah,
you.
hang in there. There will be questions coming, I'm sure. And your closeness and proximity to policy and advocacy is appreciated. So that I don't break that energy, I'll move straight from you to Anthony. Yeah, thank you. Anthony, you can do your 5 minutes.
No, thank you very much. I thought 10 minutes. Everyone was putting 10. So if you 5, okay. I'll try to do 5.
This is ANAPRI. You've been speaking since day one. So
okay, fantastic. And I'm sure you've heard that we are the poorest coalition. We don't have a CEO like Larry. We don't have a CEO like Sheila. We are busy trying to facilitate, to try to get a CEO. I said facilitate. It's a new word. In policy, you have to know that one. You facilitate and manipulate. So that's why everyone was saying I'm a bully, but I'm not. Basically, it's good to be friends to everyone. C for PA, calling for policy and advocacy. I think you've seen a few institutions listed. ANAPRI was chosen as the secretariat of the C4PA. It didn't come easy. It came through facilitation. But we as ANAPRI, we said, no, you know what? When we are cooking the meal, we cannot be alone in the kitchen. So we need to have a few selected key players in the room. That's when we said, who else? We have AGRA, who is in the policy space. We have FANAPAN in the policy space. We have international partners like IFPRI in the policy space. And we have Michigan. I'm a product of Michigan State University, so I had to bring my university in there too. But unfortunately, the funding landscape has changed. USAID is gone. Hence, we need to start rethinking which other partners to bring on board. Because as we are in the policy space, you need to keep your eye open. Otherwise, you're left behind. Then we have FARA. And when we met first time in Uganda, so basically when we set up the coalition, so that was the first step to move forward. People said, but those are not the only policy institutions that, those are not only the institutions that can drive policy. I says, yes, you're correct. But all of us, we can't be in the kitchen. Otherwise, the meal that we prepare will be so bad. So we will engage with the different partners as and when it is necessary. And you will see that as an ANAPRI, we also realize that we are coming into the policy space under the Africa Fertilizer and Soil Health space, not to crowd out everyone. Because at ANAPRI, we were already doing soil things. FARA was already doing soil things. FANAPAN doing soil things. IFDC, that's their forte. Probably that's why you see that number very up there. It's because that's what they live, and every day that's what they are thinking. So there are people who have comparative advantage in these different areas. So we are trying to bring them on now on board. We are also trying to court the private sector, because it's important that we work with the private sector. So I work very well with Sheila, and we'll demonstrate tomorrow that we can be able to work with the private sector to drive real action. So the first thing that we did was to set up the coalition, but we didn't have any funds. So we managed to talk to one of our coalition partner, AGRA, and they said, no, we'll fund you to meet in Uganda, strategically, of course, because we wanted to drive action in Uganda. And I knew that Uganda, I have a center there that could then drive the action there, APRC. And I can tell you today that they are driving the action. They will be, I think, on stage very soon to really tell you what is going on in Uganda in terms of domestication. The other thing that we have done is Senegal, for example. We had our conference in Senegal. One thing that I have learned is You don't go to a conference a day before the conference as the leader of the institution. I usually come a week before. Basically for two reasons. Is to interface with the government, interface with the stakeholders. That's why you heard Stephen yesterday say, he bullied me into coming. It's because we try to interact. I met the minister who was supposed to come, but of course he had other commitments, but he sent another minister. It's because we try, in the policy game, you have to know your clients to be able to influence. So in Senegal, we talked to the ministers there, very interested in a program that we are calling Farmer Know Your Soil. And I don't want to preempt. My colleagues from ISRABAM are going to tell you more about Farmer Know Your Soil. Nobody has put money into it. But as we were talking to ISRABAM, we said, no, we are going to launch this program in Senegal at ANAPRI conference. It was launched by the Commissioner, Africa Union, but now she has moved on to another, I mean, her tenure expired. That's why my brother said we need the Farmer Know Your Soil to go on. I says, because I don't have the millions that I require to get this going in the different countries. We said, let's start with few countries and see if this model can work. We are trying to do domestic resource mobilization. So the center in Senegal managed to convince GIZ to give it's not GIZ, I think they will talk about it when they come. They got seed money to try to launch this. But you see, when you have an idea, it might remain your idea. So we managed to develop a manual on Farmer Know Your Soil so that people can understand what it is that we are trying to do. What we are saying basically is that the Farmer Know Your Soil should be the catalyst for domestication. Scientists will come in, private sector will come in, government will come in, extension people will come in. Because basically we are saying, let's build the soil health through knowledge. And us as researchers, we know our space. When things start happening, we'll start collecting data and trying to write those papers that people need to see whether, when a farmer knows their soil, what happens to their productivity. If they know their soil and action on the extension, what happens. So there's space for everyone. So it's an idea that we're trying to push, and as a coalition, I'm sure we will succeed, and I'm sure we will be able to attract the resources that we need. Okay. As you can see, I'm still starting. So domestication, I think Sheila alluded to the fact that there is a domestication in Senegal, Mozambique, and Malawi. We are part of the team, and thanks to Sheila for involving the coalition there under the leadership of ANAPRI. But what are the issues that we are seeing from the policy end? For me, policy is at the center of everything. That's why you find the institutions try to have a policy unit. Every institution tries to do that. They try to influence and have impact in everything that they're trying to do. But we are saying under the Africa Fertilizer and Soil Health, you have a coalition of policy and advocacy. And when we drew our, your representation of, it was, for us was not, it didn't appeal to us. So we put ourselves in the middle of all the other coalitions. To say any policy issue that you need to deal with, it is, please be courteous to talk to us. Because if you don't engage us, half the time you're going to fail because you don't know how to facilitate. Us is, we live this game day in, day out. All right? If it is science, for example, if we are talking about science, us as facilitators will still come to you and say, can you tell me more about the science or this technology? And then we can engage with policy makers. So basically what we are saying is, as C4PA, we want to catalyze the change we want to see. And as C4PA, we understand that there are institutions that have been in this game for a very long time. So let's not try to centralize things everything under the action plan. Let institutions do whatever they do best on a day-to-day, but let's try to have a better coordinating mechanism. So the fights will reduce a little bit, because everyone was trying to fight for the money. And us as facilitators, usually we don't get the money. Yeah, so basically we're saying, let everyone do whatever they need to do best, but let's coordinate the action. So we want to be able to interact, and we are moving on, I think, now to try to interact with the hubs, because domestication at national level needs also to be coordinated at regional level. So in Southern Africa, we have the Southern African Hub coordinated by CADESA, and the FANAPAN was in the lead trying to help CADESA get to where they are. And as a see, when FANAPAN is there, we are represented as a coalition. So when you see ANAPRI working with, say, AFIDA, you should know that the coalition is represented effectively. Thank you very much.
Thank you, thank you, thank you. That was the best this afternoon, this coalition. Yeah, the facilitation is very clear, and we are at the center of everything. Evidence alone will not change things. Passion alone will not change things. We are in the business of maintaining the relationship that makes it happen. So thank you, Anthony. And last but not least, and very briefly, Prof. Wole will now give us the last coalition.
Thank you very much, and I will be very brief, but my 1 minute is 90 seconds. Oh. C for Caesar, Coalition for Soil Information System in Africa. You agree with me that having soil information system is pivotal to the type of change we want to see. Not soil information system to develop some maps that is very difficult to even interpret by the person who developed the map, but soil information system that put real information in the hand of the user, and we can foster change. Now, Africa is very much behind when it comes to the development of soil information and use. And in the SIA and in the action plan, soil information plays a paramount role. It is indicated all over the document. So we form this coalition. Number one, to support countries in designing and implementing their national soil information system. Two, to build the technical capacity of the countries to be able to collect the data, manage the data, and interpret it. Then to standardize and harmonize soil data across the continent. We also want to ensure the fair data principle, and to raise awareness and promote the importance of soil information in sustaining management and policy related issues. So you see that this C for Caesar also link up with every other coalition that we want to talk about. So what have we done? Okay, to support countries in developing their soil information, the C for Caesar bring together other partners to compete for an European Union funding and set up a project. So we succeeded in mobilizing $7 million to develop the African Union Soil Observatory. And this mimic the European Union Soil Observatory, which is the strongest in the world, that helps all countries in the European Union region to monitor what goes on in their soil. So we're not copying hook, line, and sinker, but this project supports us. We have 23 partners, including AFAS, in the coalition, and we are working hard on the objectives of the coalition. We have also put in for the Living Labs core of the European Union Commission. Yeah, because prior to this, we inherited the Soil for Africa project data, and that is soil data from 40 countries. So also will help us do additional 13 countries. So if the, what do you call it, the Living Labs project comes in, then we cover the entire country, and we'll have base soil sample and baseline information for all the countries. This is sufficient if we merge it with all the legacy data to create Africa Soil Data Center. And that is going to be a very useful soil information system that we can update from year to year. So far, so good. Our coalition has been able to support 8 countries to start the process of developing their own soil information. Ethiopia is in the forefront. Kenya is also moving very strongly. And Nigeria government invested its own money with very meager support from History, our member, GIZ, and AGRA to develop its own soil information. I think Nigeria is working very hard. I'm proud to be a Nigerian. I mean, at least when it comes to that. So our coalition also is pushing that nicely to ensure that that is done. We have just 4 members now, and we are hoping to new members. We have ISTRIC, that's the Global Soil Information Center. We have CABI, Bioscience, also very strong in soil information skills. We have FAO, the Global Soil Platform, and we have FARA. FARA is there as the host of the African. On behalf of African Union, you know, once African Union is ready, we can hand over the role of hosting. But you know that African data cannot be hosted by an international organization that is not an African, and we cannot take African data and take it to the Netherlands. So however bad-mouthed anyone can do to Africa organization, our data must stay with us and be used. So you ask me the last question, where are we going? Are we putting soil information together just for academic services? No. We are developing a soil information that will support decision making at all levels. Policy level, infrastructural development, monitoring of the environment, and decision making at the farmers level. Let me describe it the way I love to describe it everywhere. We are moving gradually towards the development or harmonization of advisory tool. A tool that may be on smartphone or not smartphone, but it must be on smartphone, where a farmer can get to his field, take the GPS coordinate of his field. Is free now. Then can do a mapping of his field based on what is available, and the app can ask questions. What do you want to grow? What do you want to know? Oh, the current fertility status of the soil. And the app can use algorithm that links soil information, okay, with agronomic information, with climate information. Then collect data from the farmer also on what did you grow here last year? What yield did you get? Did you use any fertilizer? Did you add any organic? Then this algorithm can do a prediction quickly and tell the farmer, oh, this is the current status of your soil. If you want to grow maize, intercrop with cassava, you will need to use this quantity of N, P, and K, but ensure that they put a bit of molybdenum, micronutrient, and this. Because the current status of your soil shows that the level of acidity is high. Apply this quantity of lime, and it should be able to give you this yield. Make sure you monitor the weather to give you this. This is what we need. And this is where we're going. And it is not rocket science. Every tool we need to get to this point is already available. And so C4CISA is pushing towards that. You know, as we move on, because we are 40 years to still do this, we are looking at a time where we will have modular fertilizer blending site, where from this advisory tool, farmers can take his report to the modular blending site, that this is what I need for this my 500 meter square small farm, and the modular can mix it and he takes it home like that. Please don't think that it is impossible. You know, where we are today, we thought it's not possible to be here 10 years ago, but we're here today with ICT, with robotics, with remote sensing, with AI. So it's doable, and that is the focus of C4CISA. Thank you.
Thank you, Prof. Always taking us to the future. Now, I stretched this session selfishly, but I know Dr. Larry is going to feature, so it would be unfair to end this session without just allowing one or two questions, one or two burning issues that you have. If people are quiet, I say it's enthusiastic endorsement. We don't need to have a question. There is one. We'll allow that to happen.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, panel members. So, I want to ask, I want to direct my question to Professor Fakumbi. Yes, so my question, I want to speak to the coverage of this initiative. And I have a background story. So I'm a study that is looking into the impact of saltwater intrusion on water poverty among coastal communities. And yes, so I've seen that during one of my field visits, I saw a very large occurrences of farmland abandonment as a result of saltwater intrusion. So now this initiative, I saw that it covers more on fertilizer usage. Okay. Okay, so now that we are seeing that this problem is beyond fertilizer use, it's not what fertilizer can solve. So does this initiative, do you have action plans that identify the uniqueness of coastal regions? Thank you, sir.
And my second and last question.
I can speak in French. Okay. Ok, merci beaucoup pour la parole. Moi, c'est Patrick Sawasawa. Je suis le coordonnateur de l'organisation ODRAP en Afrique, Organisation de développement et de recherche agricole et la protection de la nature en République démocratique du Congo. Ma question est celle-ci. Vous nous aviez dit que l'engrais est important dans le sol pour la production d'un bon rendement agricole. Ok, nous acceptons. Quand nous mangeons l'aliment produit par l'engrais chimique, ça n'a pas des effets négatifs sur l'organe humain et le sol. Ok, merci beaucoup.
So the questions are clear. My French is perfect. Prof, you can proceed.
Okay. Thank you very much for raising these questions. I think Pillar 2 of Soil Initiative for Africa, the sub-pillars, one of them address the issue of salinization from ocean drift into arable cultivable land. And you know, this initiative is going to give attention also to that. It's the same as looking at the issues of acidity, which cut across some parts of the continent. Not everywhere, but very little place. But we know from science that addressing acidity is a major problem, the same way as this salinity. Yeah, it is expensive to desalinize a soil that is close to ocean drift. So often what science is saying is we should look for soil tolerant variety. There are certain crops, commodity that are soil tolerant, and they can be produced very well in such region. And so, you know, that is scientific approach there are other approaches that could be blended than to see. And so your type of research studies and many others that are done and that are done in other countries, we will find opportunity. And I think this type of issue falls under CFISH as the organizations that look into research and innovation. I want to say that the commissioner, the past commissioner Sako, I love her so much, Mama Africa, and the new commissioner, they insist that the implementation of this must cover the continent. So get that. In fact, that is good for all of us to get that very clear. In the days of Commissioner Sako, she will call me and say, Wale, not only these 14 countries that are friends of donor, but 55 countries in Africa. I want action. And so we're going to do that. Whether they are difficult to approach or they are easy to work in, we will move there. So we cover the continent. I know that the second question my brother asked is both scientific and also social. Social in the sense that social movement tends to pick information that are not scientifically sound, and they misinform the civil society. They are louder than the real scientific proven fraternity. And the scientists don't talk much. They write all their jargons in publications. I'm one of them. Please forgive us. And we are not keen to go to the social media to make it into snippets that changes the mentality of the society. Let me tell you today that fertilizer, mineral fertilizer, does not produce crop that are not tasty or that are poisonous to human health. And I'm telling you, soil scientists here, our agronomists here, will tell you, crop takes exactly the nutrients they need. They don't take it to toxic level. Otherwise, it's not going to flower, it's not going to produce food, irrespective of if it is abundant there. If a particular nutrient is abundant in the soil water, it will rather be leached beyond the use of the crop plant. The crop isn't going to take it up. So some of these things are really tricky, to say. But I want to conscientize the society that the nature and property of African soil today requires mineral fertilizer as well as organic fertilizer. If we need to apply organic fertilizer to increase the colloidal property, sorry for confusing you with technical jargons. The colloidal properties is humus, how robust the soil is to retain nutrient and water. It increases it. Otherwise, the nutrient in organic fertilizer, manure, is too small to supply the need of the cropland. You will need thousands and thousands of tons per hectare. So you apply that so that the humus content of the soil is good enough. Then you apply mineral fertilizer at the critical nutrient requirement of the crop you are planting, so that nutrient is available for the crop and you can get great yield. But you are not mining again from the soil environment. This is what we call holistic soil health management in Africa. And that is where we are going. Where soil information will be able to inform very well. But get this very clear. Okay, mineral fertilizer is not a demon. Neither organic fertilizer descent. Thank you.
I'll allow Dr. Larry. Just a minute.
Very quick. I think just to build on the comments made by Wale, is we need to ensure that ideology does not become the order of the day. And I think all of us in this room have a responsibility to help spread the correct information. And one of my hope is that the Coalition for Policy and Advocacy would bring the rest of us, all of us coalitions here, all the ANAPRI folks here, perhaps we could use ANAPRI centers as well, to figure out how to develop a strategic communication program to help to communicate what the right information is.
I think we all have to agree that
CFPA.
yeah,
CFPA. Yeah.
in our countries, I think we have different perceptions, different people, and so we need to bring everyone together. But we have to bring everyone together in a way that everyone will be more comfortable. There is science, as you indicated. There are others who have beliefs. But I think one thing that we are taking as a challenge here is that we need to see how we can bridge the gap. But I think we tried in the white paper and the SEER to try to demystify some of these perceptions, because we knew that some of these arguments are out there, right? And I think if it is a big problem in your country, I think where you would need to convince people in terms of how we can get the soil health to some good level, I think we are happy to convene a discussion. We bring the scientists, we bring everyone in the same room, and then we can discuss and have and drink tea at the end of the day together. Thank you.
Thank you. A round of applause to my colleagues here. Right. I can see hands going up. We have not finished. We have two more equally exciting panels that are coming up. So you are in for a treat, and these gentlemen are going to be here. Now, I'm going to ask them to sit here, but I just want to request the break of protocol for cameramen. I'm going to lose one of my panelists who's going to travel. So to capture history, someone said if there is no picture, it did not happen. I'll ask that, and Sheila will crop you in this picture, right? Right.
We come down.
No.
Okay, we just go. We trim off. In the middle. No, which you, man?
So I will also be one of those who will not be around. I'll ask my colleagues to stand here. From this point onwards, I am going to invite my co-facilitator. Innocent will take care of the last two sessions and the summary for the day. I would like to thank you for being a wonderful audience.
Thank you so much. Good afternoon, colleagues. Do we still have some energy in the room? Okay, super. Thank you very much. So we're not going to waste so much time. We're just going to dive into it. There were supposed to be two panels back to back, but in the interest of also saving a bit on time, because the first panel has got 3 panelists, the second one have got 2. So I have enough seats to have the 5 on upstage. I'll just stick them together so that we can, in that way, save time. We're going to be speaking now about experiences in terms of domestication of the action plan at country level. So we're going to start by inviting the following delegates representing, who will speak to us about what's happening in their respective countries upstage. For Uganda, can I invite Dr. Florence Louisa? Can you please join us upstage? Thank you very much. For Zambia, let's invite Dr. Brian Mulenga. Brian, where are you? My good friend. It looks like the panel already sitting together in one corner, so I should be looking strictly in that direction, right? Sit next to her, thank you. And then Dr. Fatou Ndeye from Senegal, please join us. Thank you very much. We would also be hearing from the hubs that we already have that are in place to give us a sense about where things are in terms of actions happening on the ground at the hub level. So to speak to us about what's happening around the West Africa hub, invite with me Mr. Larry Onuna, the Executive Director of Sea Fish. And then Dr. Bartholomew Chataika, from Kadesa. Is he online or are you on, Dr. Bartholomew? Are you online?
Yes.
Okay, thank you very much. Thank you very much. So, like I said, we'll dive into it straight. We're going to begin by speaking to the country domestication processes and the progress made with that. And I'm just going to give each speaker 5 minutes or so, essentially to tell us about what's happening at your country level. I'll begin with Senegal. How is the farmer know your soil designed in Senegal to kind of stimulate, effective domestication and implementation of the AFSH action plan? We've heard that a lot of things are happening already in Senegal, so I mean that's something to speak to, and then you can add a bit of flesh around how much progress is being made and how that is going. Over to you, Dr. Fatou.
Thank you, moderator. So I will just give some time to our English-speaking colleagues to take the, because I will speak in French, just to let my Francophone colleagues, their ears will breathe, because they have this for all day. So I will speak in French, and just giving you the time to put on your casque. And so thank you, moderator. So last year, I did the last panel of the conference. And this time also, I'm in the last panel of the day. So it is a challenge for people to hear us. So Anthony, next year, I want a panel in the morning, please. OK. Donc, pour la question concernant la domestication du plan d'action, mais aussi l'initiative Femmes Know Your Soil. Donc, Femmes Know Your Soil, comme l'a dit Anthony, l'initiative, on en a parlé l'année dernière avec notre ministre chargé des coopératives agricoles durant la conférence. Et quand on lui en a parlé, il s'est engagé à être l'ambassadeur de cette initiative au niveau du Sénégal. Donc, il a accepté de porter cette initiative parce qu'il trouve que c'est important pour le pays. Donc, on a eu déjà ce premier acquis avec le ministre. Ensuite, durant l'année, depuis la conférence, on a eu des discussions avec lui, mais aussi avec les autres acteurs, comme les organisations paysannes. Il y a aussi une organisation qu'on appelle la DITAES, qui travaille sur l'agroécologie. Et donc, on a essayé d'avoir tous les acteurs en même temps pour un peu lancer cette initiative. Mais comme l'a aussi dit Anthony, il y a le défi du financement. Voilà, comment financer cette activité-là. Donc nous, au niveau du BAM, on s'est débrouillé pour avoir une ligne budgétaire à partir d'un projet qui est financé par le CIRAD, mais porté par l'INP, l'Institut national de pédologie. Donc on a pu mobiliser 40 000 € sur ce projet-là, ce qui n'est pas énorme pour lancer cette initiative à l'échelle nationale. Mais c'est un premier pas, et on est aussi dans la dynamique du pays en tant que tel, qui commence, comme l'a présenté le professeur Wole tout à l'heure, qui commence à mettre en œuvre le plan d'action. Donc la semaine dernière, on avait un atelier qui a été financé par Agra et Sustain Africa, où tous les acteurs du secteur des engrais et de la santé des sols étaient présents pour parler de la domestication du plan d'action. Donc on avait les acteurs. À la suite de cet atelier, on a élaboré un plan d'action et une feuille de route. Et dans le plan d'action, chaque activité a un responsable bien identifié, bien clair. Maintenant, il reste à mobiliser le financement pour conduire ces activités-là. Et ça me permet aussi de parler peut-être un peu du panel précédent, parce qu'on a vu beaucoup de coalitions. Et à l'échelle nationale, nous qui sommes dans les pays, ça peut être un grand défi de s'y retrouver. Donc, que fait chaque coalition au niveau national? Par exemple, on voit beaucoup d'acteurs. IFDC, par exemple, est dans plusieurs coalitions. Et IFDC est aussi dans le processus de domestication au niveau national, très présent. C'est même l'IFDC qui a contacté le ministère, qui a organisé l'atelier. Et donc, à travers toutes ces coalitions-là, peut-être que ce sera nécessaire de voir comment parler d'une seule voix au sein des pays. Sinon, les décideurs publics peuvent se sentir un peu perdus. Voilà, parce que chacun a ses ambitions, chacun a son programme, mais nous, au niveau national, on n'est qu'un seul groupe. On ne peut pas se démultiplier, donc tout le monde viendra nous parler, et là, dans ce cas, il faut que le discours soit commun et aussi clair, mais pertinent pour le contexte national. Voilà, merci.
Thank you very much, Dr. Fatou. Very, very, very well put. And I think Senegal, it's very proactive as a country. My good friend, Dr. Mabuba Diagne, it's someone that is very, 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 very active, your minister. And please, let's keep the good work going, the good example that Senegal is becoming. Thank you very much. I'll turn now to Uganda. Dr. Florence, I'll turn it over to you. So how is it going with Farmer Know Your Soil and the whole domestication, and what's the direction going forward? Over to you. 5 minutes.
Yeah, thank you so much. I might even use less than 5 minutes. Just to give a summary, what has been happening in Uganda. So since the launch of the Africa Action Plan, different stakeholders met in Nairobi within the East African region and then carved out the priority areas for the East African region. So now come March this year, we met in Kampala with different stakeholders to kind of craft out what can be done as priority areas for Uganda. So that initiated the process of developing the action plan for Uganda, whereby we looked at the Africa plan and then the East Africa plan, but also with the request from the government was to also consider the national policies. So whatever we designed as the plan would be also speaking to the current national policies. So yeah, the process began in March, and then currently we have a plan, a draft plan, that looks at priorities both at the Africa level, East Africa, but also looking at the national policy, national agricultural policies for Uganda, especially the fertilizer policy, which also gave us the chance to be able to review the national policies for Uganda, because we saw the agriculture policy, the fertilizer policy were all expired policies. So we looked at it in two ways: what can be done to also align the national policies to the existing Africa plan that we have. So that is what we've been working on. And amongst the priority areas for Uganda, one of them involves building capacity building, doing research, and all of those are also aligned with the Farmer Know Your Soil. So in a way, the way we see it is that we have a plan that is ready for adoption, but also already talks into the Farmer Know Your Soil. So we think it's one of the ways we're going to be able to implement the plan. So the plan hasn't yet been launched as such. However, we are in the advanced stages. There was a presentation saying that we are still in the early stages. I would say I think we are in the advanced stages because we have the plan in place. What remains now is to have the plan go through the National Planning Authority. And then if it's passed by the Planning Authority, then can be launched as a national plan for Uganda. And again, why we did that is to be able to, the issue of sustainability of the funding. So once the plan is adopted by the government, then it can be also, implementation can also be budgeted for in the future. So that is the process where we are, and we think it should be done as soon as possible. Yeah, so that is, yeah, just to give the update on that. Yeah, same thing with the Farmer Know Your Soil campaign. So far we've had good experiences with different stakeholders who are willing to support the campaign, but also support the implementation of the plan. So what we are hoping is that this support continues even after the launch of the plan, that we're able to have enough finances to implement the plan. And when I say we, it's we as the different actors within the government. As Dr. Chaputo said, what APRC did was to first stipulate the process and then have the ministry take lead. So I talk about we as the different stakeholders, the ministry, APRC, research institutions, different farm organizations, all of whom we've been working together to build the plan that we currently have. So I would say the plan that Uganda has is a collective plan, getting input from the different stakeholders. Yeah, so the idea was to have it launched this year and then begin January 2026 to have now the actual implementation. But also given that we are in the election period for Uganda, just to give our president another term of office, that may delay the process, but if all goes well, then we need to have the plan launched this year. But as we also wait for the launch, then we are not sitting back. So part of the plan has a section where we need to do some documentation, monitoring, and evaluation of the plan. So in the meantime, we continue to implement what we plan to implement and document it as we wait for the official launch. So I would say different activities are being done that speak to the Farmer Know Your Soil campaign, but also implementing the plan that we have already as a draft plan for Uganda. So we are not waiting for the official launch, but yeah, work is going on already, and we are documenting that to continue reporting on how we are implementing the plan. Yeah, I think I can say that for now.
Thank you very much. This is very, very exciting to hear that Uganda is making progress. I think far more exciting part of it to me is the fact that it looks like the financing is internal. It sounds like that from the feedback here. I didn't hear any part of looking for which donor we put some money on the table, where's the money going to come from. It's going to be internally budgeted. Really exciting, and I think that's the way to go across the continent. The moment you're able to do that, to crowd in private sector investment, things are going to go to scale. Yeah, so I'll now turn to Zambia, my friend Brian. Let's hear how is it going with Farmer Know Your Soil as a part of the overall domestication, and then how are we progressing with ESFH action plan implementation. Over to you, Brian.
All right, thanks so much. Yeah, very pleased to hear that the Farmer Know Your Soil is really spreading across the continent. I say so because it started from Zambia as a pilot. I think that's where the first pilot was implemented, and it's happy. I mean, it's so pleasing to see that now it's being, replicated in the other parts of the continent. Anthony, was a branch out of this initiative in Zambia. Thanks to you, Anthony. I think we are trying to keep the fire burning. It hasn't been easy. So in Zambia, we started as a pilot. Proof of concept really is there, but the rollout has been very slow, I must say. We have been, to borrow from Anthony's new word, fasciculating the process. And we are at a stage where I think the government is very convinced, and they are willing to put in a few dollars in the rollout, which is very good, because for us, every time we think of sustainability, and so we are very happy that the government has come to the party. So we have continued to engage them. They want to repurpose some of the funds that they have towards the rollout of the Farmer Know Your Soil campaign. But in the meantime, as ANAPRI, we have continued our partnership with ISDA. I think I saw Bruce yesterday. I'm not sure if he's here. But we've continued with our partnership with ISDA to continue with a few districts, and we have seen a lot of farmers opting in, and we have some very good evidence, of some of the benefits that the farmers have reported. Farmers telling you that their fertilizer budget has reduced because now they are using the optimum amount of fertilizer because they know the nutrient status of their soil, but their yields have gone up. So those are some of the interesting impact stories that we're getting from the field. So that's the update on the Farmer Know Your Soil. Now going to the domestication. During the summit in Kenya, I think Zambia is one of the countries that had the highest level attendance because our president was in attendance, and the permanent secretary in the Ministry of Agriculture was also in attendance. So after Nairobi, as ANAPRI, we quickly swung into action, engaged the ministry, and began to think of how we can structure the domestication. So we co-developed a concept note with the Ministry of Agriculture's Zambia Agriculture Research Institute, which is the research arm of the Ministry of Agriculture. And when we developed the concept note, I think we saw some lots of goodwill from GIZ, who offered to support the establishment of structures to enable the domestication process. It took a bit of time to begin to put in place the structures. But as of September this year, a technical committee was formed to oversee the domestication process. And as I speak right now, the technical committee is in the process of procuring the services of a team of consultants to develop the Zambia Fertilizer and Soil Health Action Plan. So the plan, the roadmap is that by the end of this year, we should have a draft action plan, which now we are going to follow as a country. Maybe just some other developments that I would like to share is that Zambia has now moved from being a fertilizer importing country. We are almost exporting. I think beginning either this year or next year, Zambia will be exporting fertilizer to the region. We have jumped from a total production of less than 100,000 in about 2 or 3 years ago. We are now looking at the capacity of in excess of 800,000 annual production. So self-sufficient, but also looking to export to the region. So another development is that we're almost done with the soil mapping for the whole country, thanks to FAO and the World Bank, who have supported the government in this process. So let me end here on the Farmer Knowledge Soil update and also on the action plan. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Brian. I mean, this is very exciting. I think this is the best panel session to moderate, because it makes me, I'm quite happy because of the feedback I'm getting. I mean, every time when Wale says that the private sector says achieving some objective is a piece of cake, sometimes I know almost that he's talking about some of the things I have said. And some of the feedback you are getting reiterates that. I mean, from less than 100,000 metric ton in a country to 800,000, that's 700% growth in 1 year, right? So it's possible if the environment is right. It's possible. A lot of these objectives are achievable if the environment is right. So I'm very happy about what Zambia is doing, and I believe that Southern Africa will soon have more than enough fertilizer, and the whole of the continent, we will soon have more than what we need. And we will start competing in the global markets with fertilizers. I think that's where we are going. It's not just about feeding our need, anticipating in the global market, since we have natural resource for some of these things. Thank you guys for the great work going on. Now I turn to the other side of the conversation, which is now to hear from the hubs what's going on, where things are at in terms of, the hub playing their role of supporting countries in the domestication process, and particularly ensure that you mention about what's happening with Farmer Know Your Soil initiative, as well as how is the funding happening at the hub level? Because one thing that we know is that the people that often drive the hub, at least the institutions in which some of the hubs sit, traditionally they survive with money from outside. So the question now comes in a situation where the environment is actually forcing us to think differently. I don't like the word we are starved. We were actually just begging what we should not be begging before. So, but now we're getting forced to think differently. How are the hubs addressing the financing challenge? But I will start from online. What we tend to do in this kind of conversation is to put the guy who is online often last, and they feel a bit forgotten. But you are there, Dr. Bartholomew. So let's hear from you. How is the hub that is sitting in Kadesa moving in terms of domestication, supporting the countries in domestication and financing, and in terms of Farmer Know Your Soil? Over to you, sir.
Thank you. Thank you, moderator. Thank you for giving Kadesa this opportunity. I should start by saying, as a region, after the declaration, we moved forward to establish or to develop 2 key documents. The first document was on the establishment and operationalization of the regional hub. And the second document, it's actually a program or project that will actually harmonize or implement the agreement. So we are calling it Regional Fertilizer and Soil Health Action Plan. So we have those 2 key documents which have been developed in a collaboration with the member states. and have been endorsed by the ministers. And the hub itself has also been endorsed. So we, as a region, we are fully operational. I should say we underwent this process in collaboration with several key partners, like FAO, AFAP, CRIS, AGRA, MAPATA, IITA, ARC, several of them, AUC, NEPAD, FARA, and also ICRA, just to mention a few. This was to ensure that we include all the key partners in the process. Now, how are we supporting the countries to domesticate the implementation of the action plan? We have 3 key roles as the SROs: regional coordination, policy harmonization, as per this workshop, and also knowledge brokering. These are the key areas that the region is focusing on. Because CADESA is mandated by the SADC member states to coordinate. So all the activities, including the partners coming to the region, we are supposed to provide that coordination role so that we avoid duplication, we ensure efficient use of resources, and also we promote learning across member states. On policy harmonization, the hub has put forward the plans to harmonize the soil testing protocols, again in collaboration with the technical partners. We have heard of the coalitions. We have also put in place the plan to harmonize the fertilizer quality standards and also nutrient management frameworks. All these are embedded into the program which we are calling Regional Fertilizer and Soil Health Action Plan. We have also undergone a process of assessing the zones, the regional zones, as a part of initiating or supporting the soil testing. So the member states came together to look at the current rezoning, the current zones, and wanted to see the discrepancies across the member states and where they meet. And we have that documented, and we have a plan to ensure that going forward, the renaming of the ecological zones, which is attached to actually soil testing and so forth and so on, should be harmonized. Harmonized why? When we are recommending specific policies or interventions, we should be able to support across the member states. We should also be able to avoid duplication and also promote integration of the technologies within our member states. The third key area is on knowledge brokering. We have different platforms as a region, which we use to share the technologies, which the CADESA has assisted the countries to generate through different programs. So these are the key areas that we are doing. Now, the question is, where are we getting the funding for the activities? For now, the process of establishing the hub is being supported through the Food Systems Resilience Program, funded by the World Bank. But going forward, what we would want is to integrate a financing strategy, whereby soil health interventions are expected to be embedded into national planning systems, into the budgets, and aligned to the CADAP investment framework. We think if we enforce that, we should be able to sustain the activity. And again, CADESA has already revised its long-term strategy, both the medium-term strategy and the long-term strategy, to include issues of soil health and also the CADAP Kampala Declaration. And we think, because they are part of the mainstream of the institution, we do not want to projectize the intervention, but rather institutionalize the intervention so that beyond the resources we are getting from development partners, there should be sustainability. The member states should be able to support and continue delivering the activities. The last part, in terms of financing, we are emphasizing on private sector engagement. CADESA is exploring the possibility of developing a regional soil health financing mechanism. I don't know what we call it, but what we want is to engage fertilizer companies, engage agro dealers, engage banks to co-invest in fertilizer efficiency, biofertilizer innovations, and also climate resilience inputs. If we do this, we think we should be able to sustain the activities. For now, we need the resources to start the major activities. But then going forward, we think these mechanisms will be able to sustain the operations. Lastly, the lessons and strategies for better alignment with national priorities. We are doing the co-creation with the countries. Some of the countries actually have said what they have done. Zambia has spoken. We actually supported the process to ensure that the establishment of the technical committee, the soil hub in short, and also the actions should be aligned to the Continental Action Plan. So our role is to ensure that we link up with the AUC NEPAT, the action plan, cascade it to the member states using the regional fertilizer and soil health plan that is already approved by the member states. The second lesson is on peer learning and the South exchange. We, based on the different programs that CADESA has implemented, we have been able to engage the countries to build capacity and also ensure that one technology that is generated in one country is able to be used in another country by adapting and so forth and so on. And again, evidence-based harmonization. We have been working on policies with partners to ensure that we align with the regional interventions. We have been doing CD policies, but now the emphasis again in soil health and fertilizer to ensure that when we do the soil fertility maps, they're harmonized, the agroecological zoning, they're harmonized, the nutrient gap analysis, they're harmonized across the region. And then regional knowledge systems, we have the several platforms, as I said earlier on. So we think tracking the implementation progress will enable countries to benchmark the performance and share success stories. And this we have evidence because we have had programs that have benefited from that. When the countries learn together, the progress becomes contagious, and every nation's success becomes a regional lesson. That's what we are promoting. In closing, my reflection is this Africa Fertilizer and Soil Health Action Plan is more than a framework. It is a covenant with the farmers and our future. Let's actionalize the plan. We have done enough of planning. We have done enough of preparation. But as CADESA now, we want the intervention should be cascaded to the farmers through our coordination, regional coordination, not only CADESA, even the other continental SROs. It's our wish to ensure that there is implementation, learning from the CADAP 1.0, 1.2, and then get into CADAP 3.0. We need to enforce implementation, we need to enforce impact, and we need impact. That's my parting word, moderator. Thank you so much for giving CADESA an opportunity.
Thank you so much, Dr. Bartholomew. Thank you very much. As you were making your submission, I could read the body language of Wale, and I can say it looks like there's a lot happening that is not communicated. So I think you will help the process by feeding into the technical support organization what's going on the ground, including specifics, which countries are all of these support activities happening, so that we can track our progress. Sometimes we do a lot, but the less we report, the less good we look. So thank you very much. And I also noticed that you've already given us what was going to be my round-off question for you, lessons learned and suggestions for going forward. So thank you very much. But so I'll turn now to my good friend, big brother Larry. We know that the ECOWAS hub was the first to start. In short, in my region, we actually had a sub-regional level convening before the summit. We actually had a road plan already for West Africa before Nairobi. So and we didn't slow down. So I think there's a lot to hear about what's been happening with the West Africa hub related to all the points that everyone has been talking about. Over to you, Larry.
Thank you so much, my brother Innocent. Thank you once again for giving us this opportunity. I will be making this submission on behalf of Dr. Bernard Van Looy and Lionel Kaja, both of IITA. Unfortunately, they are not here. IITA is actually the organization hosting the regional hub for West Africa and the Sahel, and they are based in Ibadan. We have been informed about the background, how the ECOWAS hub actually came about. There was the Lomé Declaration in 2023, and at that meeting they agreed that they were going to set up a regional center that would help address all the issues related to fertilizers and soil health. And in 2024, on the sidelines of the AFSH summit in Nairobi, that hub was launched, and in June of 2024 there was the real launch of that particular hub. Who are the main donors? The initial funding has come mainly from the World Bank through ICRA and a private sector company, OCP Africa. Our expectation is that as we move forward, that we would have national governments and other donors all contributing to this basket of funds. And those initial funds have been quite useful and helpful in kickstarting the operation of this hub. Key implementers of the various functions of these hubs, we have IITA, which is also the host, APNI, the African Plant Nutrition Institute, IFDC, the International Fertilizer Development Center, ISRIC, UM6P, which is a university in Morocco. These 5 organizations are the key implementers. Of course, they are working very closely and hand in hand with national stakeholders, various institutions in the West African region. What the hub clearly seeks to do, the strategic role of the hub, is to, one, empower West Africa and the Sahel to achieve sustainable soil health and fertilizer use for resilient food systems. The hub is quite clear in its determination to translate soil science into practical tools and capacity building for the industry. They want to also respond to country priorities. It's important that we appreciate that the hub was set up to basically respond to the needs of the countries and not impose solutions. But more importantly, is the hub is quite committed to delivery focus, not just research. The hub doesn't operate in silos. There's learning and knowledge sharing is extremely very important to the hub. And so one of the conversations ongoing right now is we've extended a hand, we've extended an invitation to both IGAD and CADESA for them to come visit. We will also reach out to them as well, so that we all exchange ideas. Even though we've been operating for about a year now, there are still lots of lessons. There are lots of lessons to be learned, but we also think that those new hubs do not need to reinvent the wheel. They should learn from some of the mistakes that we have also made. There are about 21 functions of this hub. I'm not going to mention all of them, but some of these functions include capacity development of national systems. We have some group working on digital soil labs, effective laboratories, farmer-led experimentation. We even have some group also doing some work on policy and investment advisory. I mean, this is also an area where ANAPRI centers could also add some value as well. And maybe you'll come help us facilitate and get the West African governments to be able to do some more work there. Of course, like most hubs, you really would have a technical backstopping team, an operational team in place. That hub is already fully staffed, has a full team in place. And from time to time, we bring in technical experts to come help do very specialized stuff. There's a governance system in place that basically has the governance, the hub advisory committee has the technical committee, the steering committee, and of course the coordination committee in place. What kind of country engagements have we had to date? There's been some work, there's some work going on in Ghana with the upgrade of gases, where the hub is also supporting Ghana to prepare them for the preparation of a concept note for FSRP 2026. Some work in Liberia going on there, in Nigeria, in Sierra Leone. I'm not going to go through all those lists, all the specific activities, but I'll be happy to share them with you if you want to know them. But we're also backstopping and collaborating with local implementing partners. So it's not just about the hub doing everything. We're also moving to the various countries, and where there are activities going on, we are able to backstop and support. And for example, in Mali, in Nigeria and in Ghana, some work's going on soil mapping, where we are partnering with local institutions in those particular countries. In Togo, Sierra Leone, Liberia, there's some work going on nutrient omission trials with local institutions that this hub is also involved in. What lessons have we learned in the last 1 year plus of operation? It's become very clear to us that regional coordination certainly adds a lot of value. We do not need to reinvent the wheel in many countries. And so the hub model and having that political leadership that comes from ECOWAS has also been very useful in navigating our conversations with member states as well. We also believe in having country points. We have country focal points. That has been helpful because it helps to secure stronger buy-ins from the countries. But we've also been able to demonstrate through our partnership with OCP Africa that engagement with private sector is possible. We need to move that conversation. We need to make sure that partnership with private sector goes beyond OCP Africa, and that we invite other private sector actors to come partner with us. If I can summarize by just talking about one or two challenges that we have faced. One major challenge is the fact that we have very limited laboratory capacity in many of our countries. That makes it quite difficult for work for us. Our data systems are also quite fragmented, and so you guys may have heard Wale talking about the need for us to have a very harmonized data system. So that has been quite difficult. Well, also, many of our countries are at various levels. The concrete political commitment we get from them is quite diverse. Excuse me. Some nations move faster than others. But let me stop there.
Thank you so much, Larry. Thank you so much. And sorry for stretching you a bit this afternoon. I think we've heard from the countries that have shared some experience. We've also heard from the regional hubs. I don't need them to keep you here much longer. But it will be a crime to not allow you to ask if you have burning questions, haven't kept you in the room up until after 5 p.m. So I'll take just one round of maximum 4 questions, but I encourage you, if you have a question, please be a sharpshooter. Go straight to the point, you know. Is there anybody? And I'll be happy if there is none. I see one there. We can all go home and rest quickly if there's one. Okay, so I think we have only one. Excellent. So please give him the mic. Thank you. Introduce yourself and then shoot.
My name is Kayanja Julius from Uganda. My question goes to Mr. Larry Ubumwe. Actually, I was supposed to ask him in the previous panel. My question is the issue around soil health in Africa, the different moving parts to the issue of soil health in Africa. So can we package all these initiatives into an annual Africa Fertilizer Week that could be inaugurated in my country, Uganda? Thank you.
That's a very interesting question, right? Larry, so they're asking the coalition of implementers for fertilizer and soil health to come and launch a physical, regular activity in Uganda.
They're called the Africa...
you have a name for it already?
Yeah, Africa
I like this. So let's hear from Larry and then...
patented it, so...
You patented it. Yeah. So you should host the event actually from your pocket, since you've patented it. Okay, over to you, Larry.
I'm sure you have the concept note written already. No, that's a very good idea, and it's an idea that we would need to consider. I can't make commitment to you that it would be in Uganda, but one of the things we could explore is how do we have this event moving from one country to the other, and that's something certainly that we'll take into consideration. We know there's a World Soil Day that happens usually in December. I'm not aware of a regional one, so that idea is really great, and we'll definitely take you up on that and see how it goes. Thanks.
Okay, so thank you very much, everyone. I'll conclude by saying, from where I sit, from AFIDA, the Private Sector Continental Association, we just got inaugurated on the 1st of September, and I've promised stakeholders that 1st of September 2026 will show you what has happened in 1 year. It's not talk, it's action. I mean, Wale didn't receive a list of what we have done from me. Yeah, but I like he said, he likes to pull the trouble, but I'm not going to be tempted to try to list, because I started and I already have a page full that, I haven't gone halfway. So, but things are already happening. Within the last 3, 4, 5 months, you can see investments already flowing in different locations for fertilizer manufacture. So things are happening. In 1 year, we will see a lot to do. But in terms of a regular meeting, I said I wanted to let you know that now that we have a Continental Association, one of the things we'll be doing is an annual event to review the progress that is being made in the sector. And that will be driven and anchored by the private sector, but of course, we cannot do without having all the stakeholders in the room. So maybe that will be the platform. We'll see who will hit the iron faster or in a more sustainable way between ourselves and sea fish. But we need to start talking about progress consistently together. So, colleagues, I think we've had a great time during this panel session. I know there's a lot you would have loved to ask, and as you ruminate over what our speakers here have spoken, ideas might come into your mind. You want to ask later this evening, you want to corner them tomorrow and ask a bit more about the progress that has been made, or offer suggestions about how we can, fast track the pace at which we're progressing. But one thing is clear. It looks like we are gradually taking ownership of our own development. It's looking like that. And what we should hope to achieve is that it's not just a few champions that are sitting in the room today have that mindset. It should be a mindset that should penetrate our whole continent up to our national leaders to start taking ownership, so that many times our leaders put, like they say, the money where their mouth is. So we sign continental commitments, resources are put behind it, even at country level. Then when the international donor community come, they're only coming to support what we have started, So thank you again, ANAPRI, for bringing us and putting this particular conversation as part of the season. I'm going to invite to give us the summary of the conversations in this last set of panel sessions, Dr. David Nelson, to just come over and give us the summary. What we will do is, as you come up, we will take a quick group photograph so that we don't lose we don't get disadvantaged when we are compared to the last panel, and then after that you just go ahead and speak. So you join the group photo with us. Yeah, please come up. So cameraman, and then let me invite the other Wale and to join us. Yes. So over to you, David.
Yeah, you sit anywhere. Okay. You have a number of seats. You have options.
So I'll just turn it over to you to give us a summary and next steps, coming from what you've gathered so far in this last set of sessions. Thank you.
Okay. Thanks for the opportunity to speak. I feel a little bad extending the session any longer, but I've been asked to just give a bit of emphasis at some of the points that were made and maybe a bit of perspective and interpretation coming from the global perspective, I guess. Let me just introduce myself quickly. I come from the Washington, D.C. area where I'm based. I grew up in a farming state in the United States where almost everybody's a farmer. We were growing maize and soybeans and cattle. And I did a PhD in economics and then went to the World Bank. Well, I first went to a couple of years at the University of California, but then went to the World Bank and worked in the agriculture operational part of the World Bank, so managing projects and programs with client countries for almost 30 years. And I left about 5 years ago, and almost all of that 5 years I've been working with some of these characters you saw today on the stage, thinking through the what a soil initiative for Africa could look like and what should be included. So what a great cast of presenters we had, giving quite thoughtful description of the soil initiative and what's happened already and what's expected to come. It's been one of the best experiences of my life to have a chance to work with all of you guys on that. So now I have to say, you've done a great job in summarizing what's happening, so I'll try to keep my remarks short and just give a little perspective to it. I'm going to follow the advice of my PhD thesis committee. When I presented the defense of my thesis 35 years ago, I had 5 professors, and they got excited about talking about a trade policy issue. And I had to interrupt them about 25 minutes after it was supposed to begin, and I said, well, maybe I should get started. And my advisor said, all right, but keep it short. So I'll try to follow his advice. And by the way, I did follow it on that day, and I did get my degree. So I think today, in this session, we've been hearing about a very serious and impressive preparations for a very ambitious project. And we've been hearing from a very serious and impressive group of people who've really been effective and thoughtful in what they've put together. And they've been tackling one of the most serious issues facing African agriculture. It's hard to think of, there are probably a couple really core things that you have to have in agriculture. Soil is certainly one of them. Maybe water and effective people are maybe the other two. Maybe you can think, I'm not a scientist, so maybe the rest of you can think of additional ones, but this is one of the most important fundamental ingredients for sure. And I think you've heard a lot about preparing to make a difference in that topic. You've heard a lot about the kinds of things that you've been working on to prepare to make a difference. And I hope we get the sense that from that discussion, we're just about ready to start making a difference on the ground in farmers' fields. I think a lot has been done that you've all been describing about how we plan to do that. So I'm just going to say a few things to give some perspective to what we've already heard. And what are some of the motivations for launching that effort? One of them, there is a long-term decline in soil health across the continent. Now that's not everywhere. There are lots of exceptions to the decline in soil health. And I suspect that many of you in the room have been part of making a difference on a district or a community level. People do make a difference and they do it successfully. But what I think none of us has managed to achieve, including my old institution, the World Bank, and some of your institutions, is to make that happen at scale. So I think the costliness of this decline in soil health is one motivation, an important one. I'll speak just a little bit about that. And the difficulty of going to scale and what it takes to put the pieces in place to go to scale. I think those are the two real motivations that got the discussion going to launch this effort. And I think for a long time, that soil health in Africa has been kind of an under-the-radar problem. Lots of people were aware of it and have noticed it, but it wasn't really getting the explicit attention that you might see in other, maybe one aspect of it got attention. The fertilizer issue is something that's gotten a lot of attention, but a more holistic approach to the soil health, including fertilizer as a very key component, has not really gotten the kind of attention you might imagine when we look at the cost of the situation. And you don't see it popping up typically in continental or national strategies about agriculture. You don't see a chapter on soil, typically. You don't see it in public sector budgets as a category of the budget. You don't see it, you don't see the World Bank or GIZ or the Gates Foundation or others. You know, we haven't typically seen soil as one of the fundamental topics that we should all make progress on. So I would say it's kind of been under the radar for a long time. And Africa, and it's been costly. So I think Wole showed us in picture form, to some extent, what are some of the things that happen when you're not paying attention to soil health and managing it carefully. But as speaking to mostly economists, I think, in this room, I'm going to just give a couple of numbers. IFPRI and the World Bank publications estimate that the cost of this decline in soil health has been roughly 5% of agriculture GDP annually. That's a pretty big number. That translates to about 0.5% of the entire economy of Africa annually, when you think of the compounding of that over the years. But for 1 year, the estimate, what is that value for 1 year? We saw someone else talk about imports reaching the level of $120 billion, I think, and we all, or was it 130? I saw a lot of eyebrows and go up, and it was kind of surprising and impressive. IFPRI and the World Bank have published that the cost of the soil health situation in Africa is about $190 billion per year. If soils were at a higher level of health and fertility, Africa would have $190 billion per year every year. And that's getting worse over time. So the cost is significant. I think it's very significant that Africa has taken on the challenge of addressing that now. I said it was under the radar, but in Africa for the last 5 years it's been prominent in the discussion. And I think Africa has been relatively little prepared to address it, however. And that's become something we've become aware of as we tried to build the soil initiative. I think at the African universities and research institutions, soil science as a discipline has experienced significant downsizing. Few faculty members now, few students. Students think there are no jobs and they don't want to come into the program. Agriculture extension is very thin in its capacity to help farmers with bringing existing science to their farm plans, to their farm activities. Ag extension is extremely important if we want to make a difference with farmers in Africa, so that's a problem. There are huge gaps in soil mapping. Some of you have spoken to some initiatives that are making a difference there, but still, that is quite an issue. There's little capacity for soil testing, and I think we have to admit that the majority of African farmers really have very little human capital and knowledge to work with to take advantage of existing science. So these are all things which make it even harder to do something successfully in turning around the soil situation. But even beyond that, when you think about going to scale, I think scale is one of the main challenges. There are roughly 100 million farms in Africa. Now, we may have experience with doing a project with 100 farms, or 1,000 farms, or maybe 10,000 for some big programs. But we know how much of a challenge it is to actually make a difference on 10,000 farmers' ability to improve their productivity. 100 million? That is a massive challenge, and it really requires putting institutions and programs and building blocks in place if you're going to reach that many people. It's not only that it's 100 million farms, it's doing it in 55 countries with all their politicians and rules and laws and languages and different kinds of soil situations and agricultures. It's doing it in the education system, which we're definitely going to have to strengthen to build more human capital. We're going to need more soil scientists. We're going to need more extension people who have capacity in that topic. We're going to need, Anthony, to address some very important policy issues about how the fertilizer markets, about land tenure and other issues. So these are quite a big challenge to take all of these things on. And I think, furthermore, we deal with a lack of coordination, fragmentation of efforts. You know, we've heard about a lot of good programs already today, but so many of them act individually, and we don't get more than the sum of the parts. We hope we even get the sum of the parts. So I think the coordination and reducing the fragmentation is also a big challenge and a big factor that we need to overcome. So I think what Wole and the others have described is to address all of that is hugely ambitious, but to do that, Africa needs a much more organized system of dealing with all the elements that are involved, the mapping, the extension, the research, the fertilizer market development, and all the other issues that have been mentioned. What Wole and I think the Soil Initiative are calling for is the development of a system, an African system that will manage all of those issues. Well, I think it's very evident from the presentations today, Africa now has a plan about what to do about that. It's going to be hard. It's going to be a lot of work to make it work. It's been developed over 4 or 5 years with a lot of consultation within Africa, within different communities of practice, different experts, also with people from outside of Africa, looking at experience outside of Africa. It's a very serious effort has been made to put together a serious plan. It's been developed, as many of you have emphasized, it's been developed by Africa, sometimes consulting with other people, but I think with the exception of me, this entire presentation has been African experts talking about what you've been able to do in terms of a plan and putting a plan in motion. So it's for sure an African-owned plan, and I think that's quite an accomplishment. It builds on the very important work and structures that CADUP has already put in place, including the notion of the national plans for soil health and fertilizer use, and the ways that continental and regional and national and local agencies work together. It definitely builds on that African-owned CADUP achievement, and it calls for African programs that already exist and programs that may come in the future and programs that may be suggested by external partners. It strongly calls for those programs all to align with the suggestions of the Soil Initiative. So it's fully African-owned in that sense, and I think that's extremely important. So Africa's leaders have endorsed it. Wole described the process and committed to action on this, and I think they're watching carefully. That was at the level of AU Heads of State Summit, and they spoke about roles at every level, the continental, regional, country, local, and farm level, responsibilities and roles there, and they've committed to watching to see that that happens. The plan includes a lot of guidance on how to. It's not just the goals that Wole showed us, which are important, but it's also about the how to. And over the couple of years that people have been working on this, there have been tremendous effort to consult with experts on all the various subcategories of soil health on what is best practice? What is how-to? And it's all been compiled in something that Wole showed us, the toolkit. So there's a toolkit with recommendations on what anybody's part in that soil health system, what's best practice for that part, and what it talks about comparing what we have in place now with what is recommended, and gives ideas how to move in the right direction. That is a major accomplishment to put that material together. It also talks not only about the technical aspects, but also the process aspects. For example, supporting the development of national plans. And you've heard the coalitions talk about how they can support that. It requires a tremendous amount of prioritization and coordination to make this work, and Wole's told us about how the responsibilities for that will be carried out. So I think I'm ready to conclude. Yes. With all of this in place, I think, huge congratulations to all of you who helped get us to where we are today. I think Africa is ready to make progress on the ground now. You've told us about putting the building blocks in place. Now we're ready to put them to use, make it happen at scale. And one last comment about it. I think in Africa, those of you who have put that together will lead the way on this. But the decline in soil health is not only happening in Africa, it's really a global issue. And I think Africa is the first continent to really address this kind of issue at this scale, to attempt to do that. And so I would say there are a few places where you could point to and say, okay, India has done something serious on soil. Brazil has done something serious on trying to improve soil health also, with some success. But I think neither of those is even closely comparable to the challenge that you have in Africa to make progress. So, I would say now the world is following Africa and paying attention to soil health. It's 5 years ago, soil was not on the agenda of the big international meetings, either here in Africa or at Davos or at the World Food Prize, or Bill Gates is talking about the importance of soil health, just to name a few. The attention that Africa has given to this topic has made it a global priority. Africa is leading the way on this, and congratulations to where you've already gotten, but there's a lot more to do.
Thank you so much, David, for that summary of the lessons. I'm excited about how he ended. So now we are not going to be underdogs in this business of restoring soils. We've put ourselves in a position where we have to remain leaders. If we took the first leap of willing to do restoring soil at continental level, then we must not go at a pace where people coming behind us will overtake us. We have to keep that pace, right? We have to have this as something that the world will learn from us. I think that's very important. Thank you, David, for making that point very clear. I guess with this, we close the session. I believe the organizers have, maybe if there's any announcement before we all go and retire for the day. So, Anthony, thank you very much.
I was looking for my research director. I don't see him. So you have been great for the past 3 days for those who came for the pre-event. Tomorrow is the last day. It's a half day. We have 2 sessions. One on systems thinking. You don't have to miss it because we are going to do some fantastic things in it. And then the last session is we are going to demonstrate the importance of collaboration, cooperation, and co-creation. So we've put together a number of institutions that will demonstrate how they work with ANAPRI in 2026. We'll go for lunch. And I think there was a QR code that shows we are going to visit Rwanda. So you pick the 3 options. I'm going to pick the one where I'm not going to pay anything. I'm going to visit a fertilizer company. But if you wish to visit the memorial, there's a fee there. So all that information my team has put together, very beautiful information. So pick where you'd like to visit. I visited the memorial last year. This year in January. So I wouldn't want to go back again, but I'd rather go to the villages. So thank you again. We can adjourn. See you tomorrow. You're starting today? Huh? Early tomorrow, so please, it should be 8 o'clock tomorrow, so have a quick breakfast and come in earlier. Thank you.